Hey guys and gals, so we spent 20 minutes yesterday trying to create the most realistic laser beam we could. What good is that except for a little fun? Well, today I'm going to show you how to make it follow a path like you saw in my original test clip. For the first time you see path tracking, it's pretty cool, and when done well, it's really cool. So Derek from BlenderTek.com here. If you've been following along, I'm in the process of updating my age-old intro in my free time. Today I'm going to recreate the basics of what I've been doing. If this video helps you understand paths or constraints or rigs in any way, consider liking it and consider subscribing for more Blender, Unity 3D, coding, and all sorts of other related videos. By the way, for our non-English speakers and those with bad eyes, I have increased the font size using the DPI setting under Systems and User Preferences. Let me know what you think. Some people were complaining that it's hard to read values. I personally feel like Blender is now set up for my great-grandmother, but hey, you guys let me know if you like it better or not. Lastly, our motto, create your way. So I'm going to begin by apologizing for any construction noise in the background. Anyway, so we had our laser beam just like this, and we also had my little test scene where my robot went over the entire BlenderTek path here. Now, this was just basically a test. This whole model was a placeholder. If we hide the plane, that was the general shape of the path. So I'm going to show you kind of how to get this done using our laser beam we created. Alright, so using our pose mode with our armature setup, this is the target bone that controls all the IK solvers in here, the entire IK chain. We've got our robot arm in a general idle position. I'm just gonna hide this armature. Let's recreate our laser beam really quickly. Plane's gonna get in the way, I'm gonna hide that. Let's just find the front view, which happens to be left in this, or right in this model's case. And I'm just going to create it somewhere around the center here. Like that, I'm sure is fine. So we're gonna do the same as before. We're going to add a circle, F6, align to view. Then I'm going to tab into edit mode and I'm going to select all vertices except for one, and I'll move it out a little bit along the Z and X respectively so that we can see it, and so that should emit fine. So now let's add in our particle system. Let's rename our circle while we're at it to laser emitter. Particle system, we can just leave that alone for today. You guys saw how it was done. If you didn't, you can watch the video. I'll try to annotate to it. However, we need we'll tab out of edit mode. In our little garbage layer here, we need an object for our laser beam. So I'm just going to create a new sphere. I've decided that spheres make it easier for laser beams because then you don't have to worry about rotation. Scale it down in half. I'm going to add a new material, which is going to be an emission. Again, we went through this before. We'll go BlenderTek. We'll go green today, just for fun. Bright green. So that should be just fine. So back to our little vert here, our laser emitter, our particle system. We'll bump it up to say 15,000. With circles, you need a little bit more too, I found. We want to emit from verts. Non-random. Cache we don't need to worry about. Velocity, none. We don't want any gravity affecting this. We want it to render an object being sphere 001, and we will see how the size looks after, or if it's even working properly. Apparently not. What am I forgetting? Oh, the wind. Yeah, there's 15,000 circles sitting there, that's why. Alright, so we're going to move our cursor to here. So cursor to selected. We're going to add a force field, a wind. We're going to rotate it along the Y, 90 degrees. I'm going to move it back a little bit along the X just so we can see a little better. I'm also going to scale it up and move it back even further so we can see a little better. And under the physics tab, I'm going to change its strength to 600 meters per second as per my usual, so it's way out there. Alright, so now we should have particles emitting just fine. Or we don't. Again, what am I forgetting? Okay, why are you being a bugger? I guess it needed some sort of initial velocity. But again, we have the pulse looking laser, so we need to up it back to, we'll try 10,000 this time. Alright, that is a laser beam more or less. It's starting to slow Blender down again. Maybe for this simple test, I'll bring this down to 5,000. We need to parent our wind and our laser emitter to something where the robot arm is pointing. Now if I tab into edit mode, it looks like this points in that direction. So I'm going to use this object, this circle here looks it's not modeled the best, but you get the idea. That circle there looks like it's pointing where we would want it, so I'm going to use that object there, which happens to be, looks like J5. Yep, perfect. So we'll take our wind, we'll parent that to J5, Control P, set parent object, same for our laser emitter, shift right click on J5, Control P, set parent to object. Now our laser beam should move with the robot. So let's test that out. So we'll go into pose mode with the armature selected. So I will unhide that. We'll select our arm target in pose mode. And when we move it, I might have to free the bake up for this, yeah. It should come out exactly wherever it's pointed. Perfect. Alright, again it's slowing Blender down to heck. I don't know why. Well, let's down the number of particles even further and see if that helps. I know it won't look as nice. Yeah, that's helping a lot. Alright, well, we'll just have to live with that. It looks a little funky, but anyways, let's unhide everything. I think I had a plane there, yep. And so the whole idea behind this was paths. So how do we make our robot and laser beam follow something? Well, that's quite easy. I'm going to move my cursor to the center of this plane. I think this model's on its own layer. Yep, perfect. So we'll just hide that for now. And I'm going to hide that for now. So I'm just going to move my cursor to the center of this plane. Cursor to selected. When we move into the view that I can actually see that, I'm going to go out of, excuse me, material mode so that it's not super bright. The normal on this is also backwards. Anyways, we need to add a, I just turned off screencast keys again. Oh, sorry guys. So we need to add a curve path, and you could use other curves, I'm sure, but this is what I've been using. If you tab into edit mode, you'll see that due to the scale of this model, the normals are way out of scale, so I've been turning them off. But before we do that, we need to rotate this along the Z 90 degrees so that it so we know which way it's pointing. So our curve is starting in the very corner here and moving in the Y direction positively. Yeah, perfect. So I'm going to turn off the normals now that I know that. I'm going to move back to that view. And so we're in edit mode of the curve. We're going to select the last point here, and we're just going to be extruding, and you'll see how that creates a curve. So if I was to extrude this straight up about the same amount as the last point, you'll see how it creates a nice logarithmic curve, I think is what you call it. So if you've never used Blender's curve system before, that's basically how it works. You could say it kind of averages out all the points like that. But anyways, let's create something basic. I'm just going to create a great big D for my name. So I'm just going to freehand this. You'd probably want a little more accuracy if you're going for something professional. And when you want to make tight corners like that, you need to make more points. Like So otherwise you get that effect where it makes the curve a lot longer. And down at the bottom, we'll have it start to move towards that one. Actually, whoops, delete that one. Grab along the Y. I'm gonna grab this one along the Y, and I'm gonna select these both and hit F to fill our curve in. Weird that I can't see that last segment. That worries me, but regardless, we have a full curve there. If we turn normals back on, it's gonna look really funky, and it shouldn't. But again, I believe that's due to the scale of the model. So let's turn our robot back on by tabbing back into object mode and enabling that layer. Oh, I did that backwards. Okay, well, we'll just grab our path and we'll scale along the Y -1 to flip it. What we need to do is first we need to have our robot pointed to the beginning of our path, the bottom left corner, remember. So we're going to take our armature arm target and we're just going to grab it and move it there so that it's pointed there. And since this is just a quick little demo, almost essentially, I'm not going to go for perfection. I am going to recache just to make sure our laser points to the right direction. That's close enough for me. Alrighty, so that should be good. So now in pose mode, selecting this bone, this is the only, we'll go into the bone constraints tab. You won't get the bone constraint tab if you're not in pose mode. So you need to be in pose mode to get the bone constraints tab. So now we want to say, we want to add a bone constraint of follow path. The path we want to follow is NURBS path. That's what it's called by default when you create a new path. And you can see it's done something to our robot. So let's find out what it's done. We want to have it, let's just hit animate path. And so if we find our NURBS path here, when I hit animate path, you'll see a little animation comes up for our path. So let's find out what happened. So our robot is going around the D and up and over and down. So it is following the path. Not 100% properly though. So to fix that, we need to grab this back down to where it should be, about right there, I'd say. Let's try that. So you can see it following it roughly, and back down, and it's done. Now this is, I believe, a 200 frame animation. If we go to our path under the curves tab, you can actually see, oh no, it's 100 frames. So if I change this to 200, then we get the full 200 frames. It'll be a little bit slower. So you'll see it follows it, comes around, goes to the top, back down, straight down, and then to the end of the D, the last point. So this isn't perfect. It would need some more adjustment. I still have my, or the emitters not emitting enough particles to make a proper laser beam. You would obviously need to adjust that to make it look proper. That's the hard part that I've been working with. I might just have to do the old school way of using a plane for a laser beam, but I'm sure I'll come up with something. But I just wanted to show you guys how follow path works, and I thought having that laser beam kind of illustrates the fact very well. Now again, this isn't perfect, so it doesn't really show it off well. It looks more like it's emitting drops of green goo. Maybe if we took the emitter, wherever the heck it is, and gave it a bunch of initial velocity, even though it's not affected by gravity, it's shooting a little bit more accurately. I don't know what normal geometry velocity is calculated in. I assume meters per second. And we would need a lot more particles now. It doesn't need a lifetime of 200 frames either now, since it's so close to the plane. However, Blender's still very slow. We would need to animate this out fully to get any idea of how this is going to look. And you can bake it. Okay, well yeah, you can see how it's basically, it's not perfect. This isn't my model, so I'm not 100% sure on the way it works. But you get the basic idea of how it's following our D path. Now, in one of my initial recordings, I had made a empty and a cube parented to J5, which emitted sparks, and it made it look a lot more better because you could actually see where it was on the path a lot, or on the plane a lot better. But that recording just turned into a mess because Blender's been very finicky today, so this just illustrates the idea of following a path. You could do something much simpler as well if we start a new Blender file. If we go to top view and add in again a new path, in fact I'm just gonna make a NURB circle, scale it way up, find its starting point right here, and bring my cursor to there, and then I'm going to bring the cube to there. So cursor to selection, then selection to cursor. Then I'm going to take my cube, I'm going to go to the constraints tab. I'm going to add an object constraint, follow path. The path I want to follow is NURB circle. Now it's gone way off, so I need to find the proper values. Oh, I believe I need to apply the location, rotation, and scale. And the origin. Blender is really being finicky with me today. It is just not giving out the love. Let's try that. So we will animate the path. So our NURB circle now has a animation on it. Again, if we go to the curve properties, it's 100 frames. We'll give it 300 frames and go back to frame 0 to let it recache everything. We should be able to, I'm not going to bake anything. So now you'll see how it should follow the circle, more or less. Not perfectly, I didn't set this up perfectly, but that is the basics of follow path. So it can be used for a lot of interesting things in animated scenes. So hopefully this explains how the follow path constraint works for you guys, and if it helped you in any way, then consider liking the video and consider subscribing. So anyways, thanks for watching from the team here at BlenderTek.com. If you enjoyed this video and learned something, please like it and don't forget to subscribe for more videos. We're on Twitter at twitter.com/blender_tech and Facebook at facebook.com/BlenderTekPage, all one word. If you dislike this video for some reason, please tell us why so we can continually improve based on your input, either through a comment or through email at info@blendertek.com. We also take requests for tutorials and call for help. So if you want to see something or if you're having issues with something, we will try to put it up or help you out respectively. Lastly, don't forget our motto, create your way. And also I have approximately, let me just look, I have all these textures excluding the movies, so 143 textures, some nice wood, some nice fabric that I will be properly turning into normal AO Specularity, and all sorts of other maps, and I took these with a half decent camera. So those will be uploaded to BlenderTek.com as soon as I'm done converting them all properly to their respective 5 texture maps. So that'll be something more royalty free. I especially like this classic antiqued wood. I'm gonna play with this in Photoshop to make it tileable. I think it's just beautiful. Anyways, expect that soon, and expect I have a bunch of models I've been meaning to upload too, so definitely be on the lookout for updates. Anyway, that's all for now. We will see you guys next time.